welcome everybody. Give everybody a minute or two to log in here like we typically do. We don't have a specific subject matter today, and I don't think we're doing a specific subject matter counselor coffee talk until after the new year, when, assuming said FAFSA is available, that's the first thing that we'll do for you all. After the new year, we'll do a line by line walkthrough, make sure that we've seen kind of the behind the scenes version, which I can kind of tease a little bit today, but assuming that's what goes live and barring the unexpected, they're just obviously still kind of knocking the rust off. We expect it to be somewhat as advertised, in the sense that it is. I think the UX is more user-friendly, right? The user experience. I think the confirmed right questions went from 100 plus to like 35-ish, right? Like 110-ish to 35-ish. The reason for that ish is that questions, it can be more or less questions based on how you answer certain questions, right? And that'll kind of dictate the logic in terms of, do you have to answer more questions, less questions, based on how you answered certain questions, right? Like, for example, if your income is below a certain amount, you're not going to have to answer questions about savings, investments, etc. Right? So those types of folks will have that pass what's called the simplified needs test. We'll have less questions. So anyways, that's and we can get back to that in a minute. But for those of you that are new to the party here, my name is Matt Carpenter. I'm one of the founders at College Aid Pro. I wear a lot of hats here, but one of my primary, I guess, responsibilities is supporting school counselors, partnering with high schools across the country. We partner with, call it 3,000 in some capacity. We have very deep partnerships that have been going on for a long time. Some are more passive, where folks are just kind of sharing what they think is helpful material, content, etc. for their audience. But we also just kind of want to support you directly, right? That's why we have a dedicated email, counselor@collegeaidpro.com, just for your questions. We try to be, and I think we do a pretty good job being really responsive in there. And again, just make sure that these things where you feel like, this feels like it's over my head, whether you send parents our way and make sure that you tell them that you did send them our way. We will treat folks that get sent by their school counselors differently than if they just find us off the internet, for example. And then again, or just ask your questions directly if you want to be the mouthpiece, or the solution for certain questions. So by way of kind of like quick outline, right? Again, because I see some new faces on here, I'll just give you the really high level deal. But the way that we partner with schools, and there's a whole bunch of different variations, but from a really high level, we provide a curriculum. So all things financial aid in terms of how this works, line by line through the FAFSA, and on a whole level, how does this work, guys? Right? Kind of like most schools, you probably do. Maybe somebody from your local college does a catch-all financial aid night once or twice a year. We just kind of evolved. We still do those because they're the most important, but we'll also do walkthrough line by line of the FAFSA and the CSS profile, a whole presentation on private scholarships and kind of the verification process, and then understanding award letters and how to appeal to colleges for more money, and then how to pay the bill or borrow. Right. So after May 1st, once these seniors know where they're going to school, our presentation is like, okay, if your family needs to borrow, should you take out the PLUS loan versus Sallie Mae, versus if your state program has an option. Now there's two states, my state in Massachusetts and just below me in Rhode Island are the only two states in the country where you can borrow from their state programs, and they're really good, regardless of whether you're a resident, regardless of whether your kid goes to school there. So again, I could be a California resident and go to UCLA, but I can still borrow from Rhode Island's program again, which is a really good one. So anyways, we want to make sure families have that education. And then if they have resources, we talk about, okay, when do you, when should you use the 529 versus UGMAs versus grandparent contributions, etc. We always do our presentations with two presenters, right? We can get some amazing presenters. So whoever's not speaking can be in Q&A, asking questions. It gives parents an opportunity to ask their questions as personal as they want, as specific as they want. They can remain anonymous, which is great, right? So we found that one of the silver linings about doing, everything going virtual now is that families feel comfortable asking, or, can anonymously ask questions that they wouldn't normally in a in-person setting in front of their colleagues and peers, I think, which has been a nice thing, right? So families that are undocumented maybe don't want to talk about that, or going through a divorce at home, whatever. And then we have our software, right, that we like to call like the Naviance or Score or School Links, whatever you use on the admission side for financial aid and scholarships, right? And we can, something that we say every day is that we can teach this and how it works, and we can do a great job, but families have to know how it's going to work specifically for them, right? What's my SAI going to be? Am I going to get financial aid, scholarships? How much at which colleges, et cetera, right? Every private scholarship in the country is all baked into that platform. So anyways, this is, and I think for those of you that do partner with us, it's been a game changer in terms of being able to help solve the kind of affordability piece, which I think is always a challenge, at least for our school counselors that I talk to. I don't know that I've talked to one that doesn't feel like that's a challenge, especially since even if you know everything about how generous or not a college is, something we say all the time is somebody can walk in your office and say, hey, is the University of Chicago generous? To answer that question accurately, you'd have to say, well, let me see your tax returns and your bank statements and I'll let you know, right? Because that's going to vary based on that, right? They could be very generous. They could be $92,000 a year. And of course, most folks will probably be somewhere in between. So anyways, that's the gist of it. Please, actually, let me go grab my link here. If anybody wants to book some time with me, I would love to chat with you and just learn about your school and kind of what resources you guys offer currently, and just how we might be able to fit in with that, support that. Just hopefully, again, we pride ourselves as having more free resources than anybody when it comes to financial aid and scholarships, and kind of our sweet spot. So I back to the FAFSA. That's kind of the topic. Still no more official updates outside of by December 31st. Okay, by December 31st is what they're saying. I think I would say Vegas Odds has a soft release that will happen right after Christmas, earlier in that week. Well, they won't, and again, who knows, right? Who knows? This is take this with a grain of salt. But if I'm a betting man, and I am, what I would say is I would expect that it gets a soft release, similar to what the CSS profile does, right? The CSS profile says, hey, we're accessible October 1st, but it's actually accessible like a week before. And what they do is, like, if you find it, right, it allows them to work out some kinks and have it live before all the masses come on October 1st, right? So FAFSA has done something similar the last couple of years, where 1, 2, 3 days early, they do, again, that kind of soft release. So I think that's what'll happen. They'll have a soft release where they won't announce it. They'll see what they learn, try to hopefully work out some kinks before it gets, again, kind of open to the, publicly open, probably on December 31st. And of course, like it always does, it's going to crash. Like this year's not going to be different. It'll crash those first couple of days, and then again on February 1st. And, it'll, I know that's not a knock on them. That's just historically, which has been the case. And I would be shocked if we don't have any crashes this year. And when I say crashes, like, you can't get on, right? Everybody, you have quite literally millions of people trying to log on at once, and the platform can't support it. So basically nobody gets on, or you're on and you get kicked off. And that's why we're always telling our families, like, there's this myth, right, that it's first come, first serve financial aid and scholarships, and get those and I think, and it's a common talk track, get those FAFSAs and CSS profiles in to make sure you get the most money. I don't want to say there's no truth to that, right? Because if you just have to make sure you make your priority deadlines, right? So if your priority deadline is February 1st, you're not going to get any more money whether you hit submit on December 31st or February 1st, right? You are in that first wave of maximum uh, consideration, right, for need-based financial aid eligibility. If it's February 2nd, you could have a major problem, right? So that's why I don't mind the kind of theme of, hey, make sure you get these financial aid applications in early. I don't mind that theme, but in my opinion, the pendulum has swung a little bit too far in terms of creating panic and just kind of this myths that's not rooted in truth or how it plays out in practice. That if again, if we both have a February 1st deadline at a particular college, that this family that gets theirs in 2 weeks before versus mine a day before, they're entitled to get more money. It's just not true. So, anyways, that's again, I don't mind the theme, but there's such a thing as it's kind of taken on a life of its own in terms of getting out early. So that's the latest on the FAFSA. I'm curious to see if anybody wants to share if there's any early indications, surprises, non-surprises on the admissions front, on the financial aid front. We had I think a really pleasant surprise with an ED acceptance into Boston College with a 3.6 student, test optional, right? So that I mean, incredibly well-rounded kid, but I thought that was again a pleasant surprise, right? And so I had another student that was Tulane, again, not what you would expect in terms of their standard measurables. So it's just kind of interesting, right? It makes me, it's like, okay, is ED a big advantage? Is that what we're learning? Is it these kids are just really gifted holistically, and these schools are doing a better job in terms of digging in. One of these kids is going to be not full pay. The Boston College kids, not full pay, but they're going to pay pretty close. They're not going to be eligible for a ton of need-based aid. The Tulane kids, pretty similar, right? So are they staring at that going, these are good students, but they're also paying close to full price here, which, still kind of works for them, right? So obviously it's speculation at this point, and we'll talk to our contacts on the admissions side once this gets flushed out a little bit more at all these schools. But yeah, just kind of curious if anybody has a college acceptance or denial or financial aid package or scholarship yet that they've been surprised about, or any themes. I mean, I know it's super early, right? So but we had another family though that was ED. This is an athlete, so it's a little bit different, but in terms of the timeline. But ED acceptance into U Chicago, should have been eligible for aid. They said basically get lost, and so that's an interesting one. Obviously, that will be an appeal case, and we'll see what happens there. I imagine we'll beat them up for a couple bucks, but again, that was somewhat surprising to see them really flex their ED leverage, and almost, I don't want to say dare the family, but kind of told them to keep shopping, because this is what you're going to get if you do in fact pull the ED trigger. And this was a pre-read, right? So they still have to go through the formal application process, and they also wouldn't hear the appeal on the pre-read, which was interesting. Now, by federal law now, they have to, every single college, which this is more of nice marketing by the Department of Education here, in my opinion. Every school has to hear appeals. You're entitled to go through the process. Again, it's not going to change anything in terms of what schools giving money or not, right? It's not like you have to give more money. They just have to hear it. So that's a bunch of jazz hands, head fake, whatever you want to call it, smoke and mirrors. I mean, who cares? But at some point, they're going to have to hear this appeal, and I think we got a meaningful case. So we'll see what happens there. Yeah, so that's kind of my commentary, and I would say the current state of affairs. I think hopefully you guys are in a little bit of a lull with December. Famous last words, right? But with at least most of the early applications off. I'm sure you'll get a whole another batch here with regular decision kids. And of course, we'll have lots to talk about when this FAFSA deal becomes live, but otherwise that's it for me. And yeah, we will still have this counselor talk 2 weeks from now. And again, who knows, maybe the FAFSA will be available. If it comes out, surprises us all and comes out earlier, we'll probably do some emergency press conference type stuff, and maybe I'll get ahead of some deadlines. But yeah, then that, let me just stare at the calendar for a second here. So the 20th, we'll hold this. Hopefully a lot of you guys are off for a break already. I don't know if you're getting 2 weeks off, but hopefully you're off. I won't be, we won't be. We will be definitely, actually that's kind of a natural skip. So January 3rd will actually be the next counselor coffee talk. Depending on when the FAFSA comes out, we'll have to think about if we do our kind of line by line FAFSA for you all that January 3rd, if that gives us enough time to kind of promote it to you all, or the 2 weeks later on the 17th. So you'll hear from us. So just kind of pay attention. And again, we'll be all over the place once that baby does go live. So that's it for me, guys. Like I said, as promised, no kind of firm agenda here. That's the state of affairs. I'll stick on for a few more minutes, and of course the whole hour if we get questions that call for that. But yeah, otherwise that's it for me. And yeah, I'll just be curious. We're always curious to kind of share trade notes on where kids are getting accepted, denied, what types of offers, financial aid, scholarships, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, basically, what are we seeing out there? I think the hive mentality is pretty beneficial. And again, we'll see if some of these early surprises are one-offs or are they a theme that is going to continue. So that's again that's always interesting. And yeah, we'll keep tabs on it and keep sharing. I'll hang on 2 more minutes, guys, till 20 after. We still have questions, and then otherwise we will do class dismissed. Yeah, no. So so again, there is still yet to be an official when will FAFSA be available. The latest official information is by December 31st. Again, I'm speaking for myself, right? If I'm a betting man, which I am, okay, I think it will be publicly available actually on December 31st, but I think they will do as they have historically, as CSS Profile has historically, a soft launch a few days before. So, where we got Christmas falling on a Monday this year, right? I wouldn't be surprised if they open it soft launch on the 26th, okay? And a soft launch meaning it's available, but they're not publicly announcing that, right? That's, again, it's not known to many, but that's what FAFSA has done historically. They kind of copied CSS Profile in terms of making it available a few days early so they could kind of learn, you flush out some kinks basically before they go officially public. So again, still nothing more official. Yeah, I do think there'll be a soft launch before 12/31, and that's and the soft launch is just you can get on there. It's available. It's live. They're just not telling anybody it's live, right? So I think that gives their programmers a chance to go on there and QA it. And then for those of us that are kind of in the know and paying attention to this stuff, we get in there and start banging around early too, because again, historically, and I don't expect it to be different, on that first official day of the FAFSA is available, it's crashing all day. You can't get on there. When you do, you get kicked off. I don't anticipate that'll be different for the first few days, call it a week. Yeah, it's hard to say what's taking them so long. I think they struggle with getting great programmers, right? I think the best programmers demand and being technically a tech company, right? And having programmers that we employ, it's an expensive trade. So it's, you know, if you're an incredible programmer, you're going to go to probably Silicon Valley and get paid the big bucks as opposed to a you know, federal government salary, right? So I think a part of it is they struggle in getting the most gifted programmers, right? And then a part of it is just in all of their defense. I'm sure there's some incredibly talented folks working on that, and that's one man's opinion here. I could be dead wrong about it, but you know, the scale at which this thing has to be has to accommodate is pretty overwhelming. So, and again, being a somebody that's in a tech and has a platform that's somewhat related, I can appreciate the beast of a challenge that it is. So I don't have a good answer for you. I just think it's a really tricky project, and I'm sure they got a lot of smart people working their butts off on it, but it's no small task. I that much I can appreciate. All right, y'all. Well, I appreciate everybody paying attention. As always, thank you for checking in. Like I said, as always, write into us, counselor@collegeaidpro.com. Or again, here's my link if you want to get on my calendar and just help me understand your school a little bit better so we can think about how to support you further, right, beyond whatever you're doing currently. But yeah, we're always grateful for the engagement here, and you know, again, just appreciate how much you guys care about what you do. And yeah, we'll see you in a couple of weeks before we all break for the holiday. Thank you.